All right, let's talk about the 2026 T20 Cricket World Cup. It's co-hosted by India and Sri Lanka, and it's supposed to be this massive global party celebrating the sport. One of the biggest events on the entire calendar.
You can just feel the buzz, right? Fans, players, whole countries are gearing up for what is the absolute pinnacle of T20 cricket. It's a tournament that promises high drama, incredible passion, and a sense of unity. But then, bam! Just as the hype is building, the whole thing gets turned on its head. A major team has just announced they're pulling out of playing in one of the host nations. The celebration has suddenly become a full-blown crisis.
And that gets us to the million-dollar question. What on earth could be so serious that an entire nation would boycott the World Cup? As we're about to see, this is a story that's about so much more than just what happens on the cricket pitch.
So let's dive right in. How did this tournament get thrown into chaos? Well, it all started on January 4th, 2026, when the Bangladesh Cricket Board sent a pretty shocking letter to the International Cricket Council.
The official reason they gave was blunt and honestly pretty chilling: security concerns. Now, you have to understand, in the world of international sports, that phrase is a massive red flag. It stops everything dead in its tracks and tells you there is a deep, deep problem.
So what sparked these so-called concerns? Well, this wasn't some vague general threat. The whole crisis was actually ignited by a controversy around a single superstar player, and it just spiraled from there into a diplomatic nightmare.
And here's where it gets complicated, because you have two totally different stories. On one side, you have the star Bangladeshi bowler Mustafa Rahman being dropped from his team in the super-rich Indian Premier League. Officially, the bcci, that's India's cricket board, gave no real reason. But the media in India, they were telling a very different story, that he was forced out because of political groups who didn't want a Bangladeshi player in the league.
And this is where a sports issue just explodes into a political one. Media reports started directly connecting the player being dropped to really sensitive claims about attacks on Hindu minorities back in Bangladesh, something that had already led to major protests months earlier. So for the Bangladesh Cricket Board, this wasn't just about a player's contract anymore. They saw it as a warning sign. Now, to really get why this one incident could blow up so fast, we have to zoom out from the cricket field for a minute. We have to look at the incredibly volatile political situation inside Bangladesh itself. The country was pretty much a tinderbox, just waiting for a spark. Okay, let's just quickly run through the timeline. Back in mid-2024, you have this massive youth-led uprising called the July Revolution, and it actually forces the prime minister to resign. But the instability didn't stop. Fast forward to late 2025, and a key youth leader, Sharif Osman Hadi, is assassinated. This plunges the country into a whole new crisis and puts the next election in serious doubt. And all this internal chaos, it's had a massive impact on foreign policy. The relationship between Bangladesh and its powerful neighbor, India, has absolutely tanked to what some are calling a historic low. Protesters have been accusing India of interfering in their politics, and things got even worse when claims surfaced that Hadi's assassins had actually fled across the border into India. So we've got the player drama, and we've got the political mess. But to really understand why the mere threat of violence can lead to a full-on World Cup boycott, we have to look back at a really dark day in cricket history, a day that still haunts the entire sport. We're talking about an event that changed security in cricket forever: the 2009 attack in Lahore, Pakistan. So picture this. It's the morning of March 3rd, 2009. The Sri Lankan cricket team is on their bus, heading to the stadium for a match. Suddenly, they're ambushed by a dozen terrorists. This wasn't random. It was a coordinated, military-style assault on one of the most famous sports teams in the world. And these attackers, they were not messing around. We're talking 12 gunmen armed with AK-47s, rocket-propelled grenades, and hand grenades. They came prepared to inflict maximum damage. In the firefight that broke out, 8 people were killed. 6 of them were the Pakistani policemen who were protecting the team, and 2 were civilians just caught in the crossfire. The human cost was just staggering. 7 Sri Lankan cricketers were wounded, including the team's captain and vice-captain. I mean, these are some of the biggest names in the sport, and they were shot at just on their way to a game. The fallout was just immense. After the Lahore attack, no major international cricket team would even consider touring Pakistan for an entire decade.
The country was totally cut off from the sport it loved. And that memory? That is the ghost that hangs over any mention of security concerns in this part of the world.
So this is the crucial part, right? Understanding how these three very different things, a player, a political crisis, and this painful history, all smash together to create the boycott we're seeing right now. It really is a perfect storm. First, you get the spark, the whole controversy over Mustafizur Rahman. Then you've got the tinderbox, the political instability in Bangladesh and their awful relationship with India. And finally, you have the ghost, that unforgettable trauma of the 2009 Lahore attack, which makes any security threat absolutely impossible to ignore. And all of this leaves us with one big, lingering question. In this part of the world, cricket is so much more than a sport. It's national pride, it's mirror of diplomatic relations, and sometimes it's a political battleground. So when you think about all that, can it ever really be just a game?